Great. All right. So we covered this. Our greatest teacher learned about energy foundations. Our only likely about energy. They are the one at best, meaning in the depth of the reading, for ways to be thought. And first, they said the first half of this, I really upset. And those who speak of the world, they want to Recording in progress, and visual review, click on, just a second. Okay, thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for being here. We want to all right. So why yesterday we actually all a lot this was that your novel has to be possible for trying to get data and all that targets like one. Then so that now to get people to get more and today we are going to oh, sure. Okay. Got somebody trying to enter as well. Okay. I think there should be a big echo. This.
Or either like come closer to the.
Maybe let's try this.
Excuse me, Ms. Bushra. Hello.
All right, is all Bayraq having a better time now? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you for your patience again. Now I'm holding three things in my hand. God help me today.
Let's try when you move away towards the board.
Okay, so as a self-check, by the end of this session, you should feel like you are ready to motivate and prepare your students to do their best on the diagnostic. So I know you're familiar with diagnostics and standardized testing, adaptive diagnostics, but you'll see what's different about this assessment and make sure you prepare your students adequately for it. I'll check in with you in the end if we accomplish that goal. The norms, I have not honored your time coming here, but I promise to honor your time going out. And because we have such little time left, my request to you is just to be present. I know there's a lot going on this week. I myself will have driven 300 kilometers today by the end of the day. So I get it. It's a crazy week and we were all prepared for it. But I just ask that while you're with me for these 45 minutes on iReady, please be present. And I really also ask that you're open with me and ask your questions. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm also going to stick around for a bit after the session and even via email. Please ask your questions. All right, so first, let me dazzle you with the power of iReady. Why iReady? Why is that the data backbone of magnetic reading? But I'll start off with a question so we can link that to your personal goals, and I really hope somebody will offer an answer to this one. What makes you feel successful as an educator? Just raise your hand if you'd like to respond. Anybody? It's tough being an educator, but what at the end of the day makes you feel successful? All right, so seeing that your student has the light bulb moment, we all live for that. I'm waiting for the light bulb moment in your eyes today. All right, yes? Language acquisition, the ability to read, word recognition, that's key. So I hear a lot of growth, right? You want your students to be changed by the end of the day, by the end of the academic year, a bit ahead in their academic journey. That's something that we're all aligned on. We really want to see growth. Okay, so how does iReady help you accomplish that? Now, iReady was designed to inform instruction. It was not designed as an assessment at first. It was designed to inform instruction. And so what iReady provides is a comprehensive suite of solutions for testing, for diagnostics, and also for instruction, whether it is whole class or small group or personalized instruction. So the diagnostic is designed to sort of give you a CT scan of your students' brains, but in a way that's digestible for you as teachers. I know you come across a lot of reports, but they don't always make sense. So our goal with our program is to make sure that our data makes sense to you and gives you that insight that would have taken you weeks to develop into how your students are actually doing. After the assessment, it's also about setting goals. I cannot emphasize this enough because it's been a couple of years where I've seen the difference between schools that set goals for their students and schools that don't, and their students knowing their goals. So how do you set those goals? How do you measure them? This program, the diagnostic reports, are going to give you those goals that you can set for your students to actually advance throughout the year. Really powerful, personalized online lessons. I know we're using a lot of online programs. This is a little different. It's not about drill and kill. It's not just about practice. There is instruction built into the lessons, and that's really important to recognize. There is a practice towards the end. There's a little quiz towards the end that helps you monitor progress. But these lessons are designed to reinforce what you are teaching in the classroom. They will never replace the teacher, but it is a complement in situations where you cannot provide one-on-one instruction all the time. And finally, we know that as teachers, you are the most important people in your classrooms. And for that, we empower you with resources for whole class and small group instruction. All of this comes together in one platform, one dashboard on iReady Connect. And whether you are an admin, a student, or a teacher, you all go to iReady Connect to log in and get access to content that is relevant to you. As teachers, that's going to be your diagnostic reports and all the different reports that we have, as well as all the instructional resources. So just keep that in mind. All of that is coming together over here. The magnetic reading toolboxes that we were talking about yesterday will also live here. So you will not be using the usernames and passwords we shared with you at all. That was only for the demo. We are still rostering your accounts. So when your accounts are rostered, you'll get a login to this platform, which is going to be simpler than the demo login. And you will see your iReady data for your students, as well as the magnetic reading toolbox and instructional resources. All right, this is what your students see when they log in. They just see My Path, which first of all, at the beginning of the year, just has diagnostic straight away. And then they have personalized instruction coming as soon as they complete the diagnostic. This was what your dashboard will look like. I wouldn't have time today to take you in it, but I'm sure once you get your logins, you'll go in. Some of you are familiar with it. I hope you'll help each other out there. And I will meet with you after the first diagnostic to acquaint you with more of the resources and how to use the data. Of course, Ms. Brittany, Ms. Mona, Ms. Cora, they're all familiar with the program as well. So you'll have a lot of support to make sure that you're ready to go and to get your logins. All right. So many of you may have seen this report before. But once your students complete the diagnostic, this is the kind of report you get. As you can see, it's color-coded. You get a key up top here. Red means 2 or more grade levels below. Yellow means 1 grade level below. Green means on grade level. Of course, by the end of the year, we're hoping to see some green in our reports, I know. And then you also get this bar graph that kind of tells you what path the student needs to take. So if this blue bar is in the green area, what do you think? Are they on grade level or off grade level? They're on grade level, right? So if this blue bar is in the green area, they're on grade level. You ideally want your students to get closer and closer to that green bar by the end of the academic year. We talked about goal setting with iReady. So you get two types of goals. You get a typical growth target and you get a stretch growth target. A typical growth target means if your student just gets grade level instruction, does a little bit of personalized learning and gets some resources, they could achieve this typical growth. For your on grade level students, typical growth is enough for them to keep up with grade level expectations. For your students who are 2 or more grade levels below, and we know that many of your students are there, you need to be targeting stretch growth. What does stretch growth require? It requires definitely rigorous whole class instruction. It requires intervention, which you guys will be doing a lot of this year. It also requires more time on personalized instruction. Typically, we recommend 45 minutes of online lessons per week. But if you're aiming for stretch growth, you want your students to be doing 4 or 5 or 6 lessons in a week, and that can take up to an hour and a half. Just keep that in mind when you get your reports. You should understand what typical growth and stretch growth mean. And then what's also really interesting is you get, this is a math report, and I should have had a reading report here, but this is a math report. You get a Lexile score as well. Now, I know you're getting Lexile scores from other reports too, so you can sort of triangulate your data and see if it's accurate or not, right? So you get another data point for Lexile scores. And you also get, this is probably the most powerful part of this report, and that's what's really special about it. You get a placement by domain. So on overall, your student might be at a grade 4 level. This is a grade 5 student at a grade 4 level. However, it might be that they're at a grade 3 level in one domain and a grade 5 level in another domain. So you need this kind of specificity to know where your students need more support. So really, this is going to be something to look out for. And you understand, this is why it's more personalized report. So you'll see the nuanced differences in your students' performance. You also get an idea of what skills your student does have in that domain, what standards are they able to meet, but also what are the next steps and resources for instruction. This is the real power of the program. Assessment and instruction and reports, they're all seamlessly linked. It's not like one program is doing the assessment, another program is doing the instruction. There's a seamless link between the two. But as you can see, given how much information you have in these reports, it's really important to get good data. If you don't get good data, you wouldn't get good, accurate reports, and you cannot use the resources. That's why we dedicate a whole session to this subject, because we want to make sure you get high quality data during the assessment. All right, so how do you get the most from the diagnostic? I think most of you here, give me a thumbs up, or let me know how you feel about adaptive assessments. A thumbs up if you know it, this if you're not sure, and this if you're not at all sure of it. How comfortable are you with adaptive diagnostics? If you know it, yes. If you're not so sure, if you're not, okay, I'm happy to cover it. I'm definitely happy to cover it. So adaptive, the word adaptive, what does that mean? It means it's changing, right? It's somehow changing. So that's how adaptive assessments work. So at the beginning of the year, say you have a grade 3 student. At the beginning of the year, they're probably at a grade 2 level, right? That's where you ideally expect them to be. So the diagnostic will start at grade 2. And then it will look at the first response. If the first response is correct, it will take them further and further up in that domain. It will start off from early on grade 3, then it will go to mid grade 3, then late grade 3, until your student makes an error. And then the program thinks, okay, maybe the student is struggling in some areas in this domain, and then it will adjust the path accordingly. And this happens across every single domain in the assessment. The iReady reading assessment covers 6 domains: phonics, phonological awareness, high frequency words, vocabulary, comprehension in literature, and informational text. So you will get this granular detail, and this adaptive, the adaptations will happen for every single domain until you get an overall score. This is how you get an individual placement for every single domain, because it's actually starting at it's actually measuring every single domain separately. And based on their performance in all these domains, it will give them an individualized instructional plan. What does this mean at the end of the day for your students? It means most likely no 2 students in your class are seeing the same assessment. They are not seeing the same assessment because there's AI, there's technology that's adapting the assessment as they go. It's possible that your grade 3 student might be at a grade 2 level in comprehension, but a grade 1 level in vocabulary, right? So but another grade 3 student who's placed on grade 2 overall might be at grade 1 in comprehension, but at grade 2 in vocabulary. So you really want an assessment that can pinpoint exactly where the student is lacking, so you can address those concerns accordingly. So that's what adaptive diagnostic means. Give me a thumbs up if you feel like you now understand it. Okay, great. I'm really happy to hear that. All right, this is for math. Actually, you guys do have the math diagnostic and instruction this year as well. However, I know there are a lot of changes happening for you. So I'm not sure if you'll be starting off with the math piece in the fall. I'll let our leaders for NCE speak to that after the session with you all. They'll inform you. However, you will definitely be taking the reading diagnostic so you can get that data to complement your magnetic reading instruction, right? Okay, so moving on. I don't think, do any of you have your computers? All right, because what we could do now is have you try out the diagnostic yourself. I think we can take out 5 minutes for that. The link is right there. You can just put it in your browser. And what I suggest is you can try any of these diagnostics. And then I'll ask you later how you experienced it. But I specifically encourage you to try the grade 3 diagnostic because it's adaptive. So you will see the answers adjust in terms of level as you go. It's not a very long simulator. It's like literally maybe 7 questions. So how about for those of you who have your computers, you can try it out. You can see what it looks like. And we'll come back together and discuss what you see here that could be useful to tell your students about to prepare them for the diagnostic. All right, so let's just take 5 minutes now. Okay. My teachers at Bayraq. Okay, you're trying it out too?
Yes, Ms. Bushra, we can hear you.
I can't hear you actually. Maybe you can type it in the chat box. Okay. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm monitoring the chat box as well. Okay, sounds good. Sorry, I'll just come down. Long drive. Oh, actually, so this is a separate link altogether.
Okay, that's okay. So when it will application itself or when we access, we can find it. Well, we
You
have to follow a link.
This is just to a simulator.
Oh,
But if you want to look at the diagnostic, I don't think you can on here actually. No, you'll
Oh.
just have to use that link.
oh,
Only your students can do the diagnostic.
only students. We cannot see anything. Only the results. we
Yeah,
can
but
see.
this link, you can save it and you
Oh.
can go and check out all the diagnostics.
Thank you so much.
So they have planning from 8 to 11
Uh-huh.
for English teachers. And then again, they have health and safety for anytime between 8 and 11:30
Oh, anytime between 11, they're available. Okay.
for here.
All right. So we're at 2:20. I just have an hour. I might go through this faster and then
Okay.
tomorrow check in with them because I
Okay.
want to do the phonics reading demonstration for them
Mhm.
and get them familiar with it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's more in person. And then I could probably review tomorrow and give me any time in the morning.
Okay.
I'm free. Now just. I'd say 2 more minutes, but if you're having trouble signing in, just raise your hand and I will come and help you. Oh.
Okay, hi. Sorry, I'm asking a very blunt question, but I'm in here and when I click it, it just has me on.
This gets everybody. You see this little arrow over here?
Yeah.
That's what it's for, take you forward.
Oh,
I'm sorry, it gets everybody. You're not alone there. I please encourage you to ask any questions. Some of you went to the link and you're seeing, how do I move to the next part of this? And there is a little arrow in the bottom right corner that you have to click on to get to the next part of the diagnostic. So if you're struggling in any way, please let me know. I'm here to help you. Since I am very, very keen for all of you to experience phonics or reading with me, I'm going to put the pedal to the metal and move forward. But before I do that, just checking in with everybody and also my teachers at Bayraq, I'm monitoring the chat. I remember you. Let me know, what did you notice? Did you notice some things in that simulation that you think would be important for your students to know? Did you notice something that you felt like your students would ask you questions about? Anybody? Did you see anything that you were like, my students are definitely asking me about this? So I have proctored this diagnostic in a couple of different countries at this point, and I have seen different reactions to the software. And one of the first things students, what happens with them is, okay, your youngest learners, they'll struggle with that, where, in which building is this assessment taking place? So you have to help them select school. Since the pandemic, we don't encourage anybody to test at home because obviously that affects the accuracy of the results. So you help them select that. Then the video pops on. And for some of our learners, it's really frustrating to watch a video. So we should kind of prepare them for it, and I'll guide you on how to do that. But there is a video. You cannot skip the video. It's a little funny for me sometimes when I'm in front of students and they keep saying, the video keeps coming up, the video keeps coming up no matter how many times I log in. It's because they press the X button in the corner while the video is playing, and then when you log back in, it just plays the video again. So we just want to prepare our very anxious and restless learners to be patient with it, all right? Another thing is when you're moving from one domain to the other, the type of question changes. And so before the software lets you move on, it asks you to watch these mini tutorials like what is my progress? Or how do you find out all the questions in this or whatever? They have to click on all those small buttons, watch those 15-second tutorials, and then once they've watched all of them, they get an orange button in the corner that says, okay, they can move forward. I'm just telling you everything that I have come across where students get curious about. Once you proctor a few of these, you get a really good handle for this. Anything else, Ms. Brittany, from your side? Do you think students surprise the students when they're taking the diagnostic that they feel unprepared for, or do you think I've covered it pretty much? I've covered it? Okay, great. All right, so if you have any questions, please let me know as well. Okay, moving forward. Of course, technical difficulties are the theme of today. Right, is this working now? Okay, it's working now. So this is exactly what I wanted to show you, what happens with K-2 students. It's important for them to select yes, and then choose a subject. Because your students have access to both reading and math, this time they will see both of them. So you will just have to guide them. So especially your youngest learners are the ones who are struggling to read. Select the book, not the plus and minus sign. All right, and this is what the reading diagnostic looks like. This is the video for the youngest learners. And then it goes into diagnostic. These are the kind of questions they see. For K-2, you have audio support for almost all your questions. So because we know our students cannot read at that level, so they will start to see, they will be able to just hover their mouse on any one of these boxes and it will read the answer to them, right? So that's your, and once they're done selecting, it's important for them to click done to move forward. Another thing to tell your learners about. And then once they're done, they get to see this nice page. They can see their progress. As soon as they're done, the program is pretty fast. The personalized learning path for your students is created and ready to go. So for your students who complete the diagnostic before everybody else, you can ask them to start with the first few lessons already as soon as they finish. For your older learners, they see something similar, they choose a subject, they have a more sophisticated screen, and then they get tips like don't give up, make sure you read the whole question. Think it through and take your best guess. And this is the screen I was talking about where you have to select all of these little things. They're 15 seconds. And then only then are you able to, does this light up, the start test, once you've clicked on everything. And then you can proceed to the next page. And these are the type of questions they see. In K2, in 3 to 8, there is audio support for some questions, and it can be switched on for some questions, but I'll talk to your leaders about it. However, that's how it works. They select the answer, they click done, and then we move forward. And this is what your older learners see once they finish the diagnostic. This number most probably is going to be meaningless to them, and we don't want them to get obsessed with it. I get students asking me all the time, what does this mean? And I tell them, it's just a starting point for you. I'm more excited to see how this number grows the next time you take the diagnostic. All right. Yes? That's a great question. No, they're able to go on to other browsers and other tabs as well. If they're, so you have to proctor it, make sure that they're not jumping here and there during the assessment. I understand. I completely understand. So you might have to monitor. I don't know if the school computers are capable of locking the screens or restricting access. Some schools restrict access to the browser and things like that when they're doing the diagnostic. It's entirely up to you, but actively proctoring is going to be key for this diagnostic. All right, so I'm going to focus on the second question. How will you motivate your students to do well on the diagnostic? I've handed this out to all of you. It is in your handouts. This is a very handy checklist for how to prepare for the diagnostic. If I was to point out a few things that are extremely crucial for you to prepare, the first thing is definitely once you get your logins, make sure all your students are in the roster. I remember when some of you started off in March, there were some mistakes in the roster. Some students were moved here or there, or teachers were misassigned. Very important when you log in, you go to your roster and you check if you have the right classes and the right students in that class. I can't tell you how important it is to test the technology. If you're using laptops, iPads, are they appropriately charged? You can use any kind of desktop and laptop for the assessment. You can't use every kind of tablet. It has to be an iPad. You can't use an Android tablet for this. You absolutely cannot use phones for this, nor do you want your students using your phones for this. So just make sure that all your technology is charged. One thing that wrecks most diagnostics is not having your headphones. Cannot tell you. So if one student in your grade 1 class does not have a working set of headphones, they're going to distract everybody else because they need to listen to what's on the diagnostic. So not only is their diagnostic impacted, but their peers' diagnostic is impacted as well. So I'd really encourage you to make sure you have extra headphones, if possible, in your class. I know devices are tricky, but I'm just giving you the tips and hopefully you'll figure out ways to make it work for you. So making sure everything is done. Paper and pencil, also encourage you. They will need some scratch paper sometimes to take down notes, especially in math. They sometimes need to work out questions. All right. In terms of scheduling, this is something definitely your leadership is going to decide. But we're really hoping that most of you get to break down the diagnostic in 2 or more sessions. And the reason being, what we often see is students getting good, they're placing well in the first 2 domains that appear on the diagnostic, and then it just tanks from there because their stamina has gone down. So for that reason, we hope you'll get more sessions. Again, I've seen the difference between schools that prepare and motivate their students and tell them what's coming up versus schools that are just like, okay, it's already time, log in, you're going to take a test. Big difference in the outcomes, and we will provide you the tools to prepare your students. Actively proctoring is really important. There was a great question here about screen locks. No, there's no screen locks in the program, so it's important to keep walking around and make sure your students are focused and actually working on the assessment. The one thing to remember is that students can leave the assessment at any point. There's a little X at the top left right corner, and they can click on that and they can just resume the diagnostic later from where they started. So that's there, but it's important to actively proctor. And you have something called a diagnostic status report in your dashboard. If I get a few minutes, or maybe actually tomorrow, we might have a chance to meet virtually for just 30 minutes. And what I will try to do is take you to the dashboard and show you where everything is so you feel comfortable going into it yourself. All right, there's a little video about getting good data. I'm actually going to skip this today and show it to you tomorrow. It's about some tips from a teacher on how to get good data. And if there's time at the end of the session, I'll play it for you as well. But it's also on iReady Central, so we're good there. Okay, preparing your students, motivating them for the diagnostic. I'm just going to throw it out at you guys first of all. So I know you take other diagnostics as well. What do you typically do to prepare and motivate your students? Any ideas that you'd like to share with me? How do you typically prepare and motivate your students for a test? Nobody likes tests, not teachers, not students. So how do we motivate them? I'm sorry, you set the expectations. Yes, perfect. You tell them what's coming up. Anything else that you do to prepare and motivate your students? Anything else? I'm sure you guys do some things, but you're feeling a bit shy. You don't want your peers to steal your ideas. All right, so setting expectations, that's really important. Letting your students know what's about to come is really important. You could even, the diagnostic simulator link, it works all the time. So you can save that link and I'll try to email it to you, add it to your resources, post-session resources. So you can just go in, you can even demonstrate to your students, this is what's going to come. We have an excellent presentation for you that has for different grade bands. There's a K-2 presentation, there's a 3-5 presentation, and you can use that. It's age appropriate. You can use that to prepare your students for the diagnostic as well. One thing I hope, especially my teachers who've used the diagnostic before are going to do is tell your students to set goals for themselves. So how do I want to perform on this test? How do I want to place? What do I want to do well on this test? How can I do better on this test? So help them set their own goals for this test. There are also resources to communicate with families, which we'll dive into. This is the presentation I was talking about. I will send you the link after the session, and we will also demonstrate tomorrow when we meet for 30 minutes, where you can find this presentation. And there are ideas for educators as well. Again, I'll show you last year as well, in the last academic year, we met in April and May. We showed you iReady Central and where you can find ideas from educators. There are teachers from around the world that have left some really great ideas. There are trackers, there are charts, there are certificates. There are lots of different things you can use. Maybe certificates might be really relevant to your students as well. And then there is an iReady Family Center. And what I love about it, very simple, basic information for parents to know what's going on, right? Because all parents want their students to do well on a test, right? So they take interest. But the really cool thing about this website that I love is they're constantly adding languages, and Arabic is in here. So you can send this link to your parents, to your students' families, and they can understand what's going on. There are lots of other languages as well, but I believe English and Arabic would probably be most relevant to you and your families. Again, you have this checklist, so you can get organized with it. Again, I'm going to just keep emphasizing, test the technology. Please test the technology. And then schedule it accordingly. For your grade K students, hopefully you will schedule it a couple of weeks into the school year so your students get used to the technology, the keys, and all of that, screens. Okay, moving forward, actively proctoring is really important. Setting up motivational cards or slides or having chants with your students that we're going to do well on the diagnostic is really important. All right, and for tracking completion, you have the diagnostic status report. Again, when we meet tomorrow virtually, or if I get a chance at the end of the session, I will take you to the dashboard and show you where this status report is. What I love about this report, please go ahead, feel free to take pictures. What I love about this report is it's tracking live. So some of my teachers like to leave this on their screens while their students are testing, and they use it to help them proctor as well, right? So you keep this on your screen, and then you use it to just see who's completed, and you get an overall completion as well. One thing to keep an eye out for that is essential are these flags. I'll explain what these flags are now. The yellow rushed flag, it's a rushed flag, means that the student rushed through some of your questions. It's about like they took 10 to 20 seconds for some questions. Typically, we expect students to take more than 20 seconds per question. If they took 10 to 20 seconds for most questions, you get a yellow rush flag. If you get a yellow rush flag, it's up to you to decide, was my student rushing because they were so good at this? Or were they rushing because they weren't trying, right? What do you think a red rush flag means? Does anybody want to guess? They just clicked through it, right? They didn't even attempt it. We know it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. We know many of your students are struggling to learn to read, right? So just when you get these flags, judgment call, it's time for you to consider what has happened here. Then go to your leaders and request if you should reassign the diagnostic. Again, I'm going to remind you why it's important to make sure that these flags are reflecting something accurate and your data is reflecting something accurate. If you don't get accurate data, all your groupings, all your reports, all your resources for instruction are useless for you. So if something is going to help you do your job better later on, you want to make sure it's done right the first time, right? And also you're measuring growth from here. So you want to make sure that you're getting the right data at these points. All right, so that's how you'll track completion. Okay, so I have sort of rushed through talking about the diagnostic. You've had a chance to experience it a little bit. I am trying to see towards the end of this session if we can find a few minutes to go into the dashboard. I'll take you to a demo account and see what resources are in there. But at this point in time, do we have any questions about the diagnostic? Uh-huh. It doesn't pause on the student's end. So they get to finish the diagnostic, and that's when you see the rush flag. So you'll have to probably reassign it or check in what's going on with the student before you do so. It would just stop. I'll definitely share this feedback. Yeah. Back with the, all right. Okay. So ideally the diagnostic should happen 3 times a year. Beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. So beginning of the year is finding your baseline. Mid-year is checking for growth. End of the year is kind of like your summative, where have they reached? Something to think about. If your students get typical growth targets, by the end of the year, they would have just progressed 1 grade level, maybe. But for your students who are the gaps haven't closed. If you want gaps to close, you ideally want them to move up more than 2 grade levels, right? And on that note, I'm really excited to talk to you about phonics for reading, because we really think for our grade 3 to 5 teachers, we really think it's going to help you achieve that growth. We know you're struggling with word recognition, with your students not recognizing letters, not being able to read the words on the page, let alone understand them. So really excited to introduce that program to you. But before I get on to that presentation, any questions here to answer them? There's no such thing as a silly question for me. It does. So when the students, say you only have a 30-minute session and you want your students to close the diagnostic, there's a cross at the top right corner, just like a typical application. They just click on it. The only time it will keep going around in circles is with the video at the beginning. If they close it while the video is playing, the introductory video, then it will just keep replaying that video. So we want to make sure students don't close the diagnostic during the video. They only close it in the middle of the actual assessment. Right? That's a great question. That's a really good question. Anything else? All right, so with that, I'm going to dive into phonics for reading for a few minutes. All right, this is the one. All right, so by the end of today, we would have introduced 3 programs to each of you over the course of 2 days. I know that's a lot, so I promise you I'm going to come back. I'm going to keep coming back, and your teachers are here to support you. Your leaders are here to support you as well. We're going to make sure you get the time you need to get used to things, all right? So we're going to really try our best. Thank you for hanging in there as we go on this roller coaster together. I hope my teachers at Bayraq are also keeping up. And I'll actually check the chat box really quick. There aren't any more questions. Okay, so phonics for reading. It's one of our most basic, in some ways, programs, in the sense that it's one of the simplest ones to implement, because it's designed to do just one thing. It's designed for your older students. My grade 3 to 5 teachers, I really want you with me for this session, all right? So it's designed to teach foundational skills to your older students in an age-appropriate manner, okay? If it's about foundational skills, you might think, why can't I just use my K-2 books? Because your students would feel like it's disrespectful towards them to use those books, you know, with those big pictures, with the little children in the pictures as well, with the big fonts, with the pace of instruction. It's not age appropriate. So here's a program that is age appropriate. All right, so I'm going to start off into it. It's really simple. We're gonna have an overview of the program, then steps to get started, and then finally, what's your implementation plan? And hopefully I'll cover all of this in 45 minutes, but again, meet with you tomorrow to make sure that you're able to grasp it. I'll be coming back to practice this with you as well. All right, so I'm going to actually skip this slide because I think you already know the answer to this question. What distinguishes a successful reader from a striving reader is their ability to actually read the words on the page, right? Once they get comfortable to reading the words on the page, then they can think about the meaning. But if they can't read the words on the page, they're lost right there. Phonics is the study and use of letter-sound associations to pronounce or decode unknown words and to spell and code words. So ideally in this program, your students should be learning breaking down words by sounds and decoding, but at the same time also encoding. They should be able to spell in this program as well. All right. As a result of this session, you should be able to understand what makes phonics for reading age appropriate for your students. You should be able to identify features of the lessons in the teacher's guide and student books. And you should be able to take steps to implement the program effectively and locate helpful resources. I believe your school has purchased the digital license, so you're printing at the school. And I'm not sure what's being printed right now, but I will definitely check in.
Sorry.
All right. So goals of reading and instruction shouldn't just be fluency. It should be
Miss Bushra.
authenticity. They should be able to look at a lot of words on the page and immediately understand them, then be able to
Excuse me, Miss Bushra.
and look on their phones or in dictionaries to find the meaning of the words, right? Reading by third grade is an important predictor. I mean, I don't think I need to explain this to anybody. I think we already know that it is. To achieve this, students need frequent foundational skills instruction and they need access to grade level content. This is why I believe we have a good solution in your hands, because you have something that's going to focus, my 3 to 5 teachers, you have something that's going to focus on foundational skills instruction, and you have something that's going to focus on grade level instruction. Ideally, your students should be realizing once they will recognize words on a page, this is the type of text I should be able to read by the end of the year, right? So a combination of both of these is important for you, and high student engagement is as well. I'm not going to go deeper into this. What I will say, my foundational skills K-2 teachers probably heard a lot about this yesterday. But my 3 to 5 teachers, to teach foundational skills is a little different from teaching reading comprehension. 2 things are extremely important. Explicit, your instruction should be explicit, clear, consistent steps, the same routines being repeated to teach new sounds. Second, it should be systematic. So basically, you should be building up from simpler sounds to more complex sounds. So you can't just decide, oh, these are the words on a page, I'm going to teach students how to phonetically read this. That's not going to work in teaching them phonics. To teach phonics, you need explicit, systematic instruction, which is what Phonics for Reading provides. Dr. Anita Archer is considered a pioneer of explicit instruction using routines and foundational skills in the US. And she has written this program herself. I will show you where you can find videos of her doing demos. She's a really inspirational woman. She loves children and she loves helping them learn to read. And I think this quote by her is really powerful. She says, there is no comprehension strategy powerful enough if the students cannot read the words on the page, which I think my 3 to 5 teachers, you know this. You know, you've tried every reading comprehension strategy in the world and it's not working because your students can't read the word on the page. All right, so what's the difference in the program? The font, first of all, is age appropriate, smaller font. It's not large letters that will make your students feel like infants. The pictures, they're older students, teenagers, as opposed to little children. And the fact that in every single, they're actually encountering multisyllabic words. They're not just encountering monosyllable words, right? So they're not just in your K-2 program, you're starting off very, very simple, but for your older students, they want a challenge. They don't want to feel like they're being babied. So that's also an important difference. And finally, in every single lesson, right from the first one, they attempt to read a sentence. You're respecting their intelligence. You're saying you can do it, and you're building up their stamina to do it. That's what makes the program effective for older students. All right, so phonics for reading, it brings together research-based approaches. It's very sequential, so you will see the sequencing and then go into the different levels of the program. And it's also explicit, as in the steps are clearly defined within the program. And the outcome is it's designed for direct instructions. It's teacher-led, it's carefully sequenced. And one important thing I'd like to highlight here, the program is called Phonics for Reading. However, just teaching phonics doesn't help your students develop word recognition skills. My K-2 teachers know this. That's why you teach phonological awareness, phonemic awareness. You also teach fluency. You teach vocabulary. You teach high frequency words, right? So just teaching phonics is not enough, whether at a K-2 level or a 3 to 5 level. So that's an important difference as well. The name can be a bit misleading in that sense. All right, so there are 3 levels in phonics for reading. You can think of it as a K-2, like K1 and 2, but plus because we're talking about older students. But regardless of whether you're a 3rd grader or a 12th grader, you're going to have 3 levels you need to get through, depending on how you place in these levels. There's a placement test to help you decide what your starting point for your students should be. Oh, not bad. I can't believe that. I'm really sorry.
Fixing it now, that's fine.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. Right. My Bayraq teachers should also hopefully be able to see this now. I am so sorry that you weren't able to. Okay, just making sure. All right, okay. All right. You're getting a handout because we're going to do a demonstration of what a phonics for reading session looks like for your older students. And I feel like if my K-2 teachers are also here, you would find that beneficial because you'll see some parallels to routines you'll be practicing in your classrooms every day. All right, so we talked about the levels, consistent routines, repeated practice, immediate corrective feedback. I'll just give you guys a minute to get your handouts. So in addition to the routines and systematic approach, a few other things are also important for this program to work. All right, I'm just making sure I have everyone's attention again before I continue. All right, great. Okay, I get it. I get it. I get curious when I get a handout. But you will definitely have time to actually be a student in that demonstration. All right, so to teach foundational skills, we talked about routines, consistent routines, yes. In addition to that, repeated practice. And I'm sorry? It's another program, but it's part of the suite. So you've got magnetic reading, you've got iReady assessment and personalized instruction, then you've got phonics for reading, but for grades 3 to 5. Yes. Are you a K-2 teacher? Oh, all right. Okay. Great, because I think you might find experiencing the routines to be beneficial as well. All right, so another thing I'm just going to highlight because I think it's extremely key to your success with this program, immediate corrective feedback. When you're teaching foundational skills, you don't wait till the end of the day to tell your students what they did wrong. You have to tell them on the spot, and you will see that when I'm demonstrating the lesson as well, that I am correcting you as I go. And it's not designed to be personal. Your students should not feel ashamed. It's just going to be kind of like habit, you know, like you're correcting them because you're just correcting their speech and what they've read. And it's going to be so fast paced that there's no time to stop and think. You just go, go, go with the program. All right. Each level has a teacher guide and a student book. And you're definitely going from simple sounds to complex sounds, simple sentences to paragraphs, entire paragraphs. That's something to keep in mind as well. I believe that every single student will be getting a printout of the student guide, and every single teacher will be getting the teacher guide as well. That's what I believe will be provided to you later on. In terms of the difference between the levels, maybe this makes sense to my 3 to 5 teachers, maybe it does not. So you start off in the first level with short vowels, double consonant, consonant blends, consonant digraphs. If this language doesn't make sense to you right now, it will as you go through the program. It doesn't have to. It does not have to. The second level, long vowels, vowel combinations, CVCE words, word endings, are controlled vowel sounds because the letter R can be tricky, right? And the third level that are vowel combinations, prefixes and suffixes, minor sounds of C and G, minor sounds of vowel combinations. So you can see it's very systematic, and that's why we really want you to stick to the routines and stick to the sequencing in the book. There's no skipping lessons. If you skip lessons, your students will lose track of what they know, and they'll not be able to build upon what they know. All right, so in terms of getting started, the first thing you'll do is you'll place students in the program. There are 3 levels, but some of your students are not all of your students are going to be level 1. Some of your students might be mid-level 1. Some of your students might be level 2. So there is a very quick placement test to help you determine what level your students should be at. I don't know if you have it in your booklet right now. Maybe the last page, you do have it. All right, you do have it in your last page. You have the student page for this, for the placement test. It's okay, I can pull it up on the screen as well, so we're good. But I will go through that during this presentation. But the first step is you get your books. What's the first thing you do? You do a placement test with your students. You have large classes and large number of students that will be going through the program. So you might need to group them. So the next step will be grouping students for instruction. The third step will be you will teach the lessons with the scripts provided in the teacher guide. And the final step is you will monitor student progress, right? These are the 4 steps in the program, okay? Step 1 and 2 will happen very quickly. I think you already have this page with you. It's the student page of the placement test. And there is a corresponding teacher page. This is a teacher form, and that's the student form, right? And you don't need a lot of student forms. You can use the same form with every student if you like. The idea is you'll start asking your students to read the words in subtest A, then if they can read all of them, subtest B. And wherever they can't read more than half the words, that's where you know you need to start, right? So you'll keep going, and give your students 2 tries at a word. Sometimes they need 2 tries at a word. But then keep them going, and then whatever point they stop at, it tells you where you need to start. So this is first level, lesson 14. Yeah? Sorry, the student?
The student read only the half of the word.
Then you stop there. Like, for example, if the student can read all the words here, mix, pad, until summit, right? That means they have these skills in lessons 1 to 13. But if they start struggling here, you stop here and you will group the students in the group that is starting in lesson 14. And the idea is that if your students start off at something very basic, it's not useful for them. And if they start off somewhere that's too advanced, you will lose them. So you just want to find the sweet spot. In some pages, you will have 3 subtests for certain levels. Actually, let me show it to you. I'm just gonna pull up the entire placement test document. Just give me a second. Okay, here we are. My Bayraq teachers might be familiar with this sample. I'm just going to scroll down. You will see a sample student lesson, but I just want to show you the placement tests. I'm just going all the way down. In just a second. Okay, here's a placement test. So you saw this page already. So this is for lesson 1, but there are many subtests. Subtest E, C, and then you go scroll down further. Third level, you have 4 subtests actually. And this is the form where, as a teacher, you are recording where your student is placing. The name of the student, the date, and where they're placing. You're figuring that out here. And where it says 2, what do you think that 2 means? Any idea? It means you can give them, there are 2 syllables in there, right? So you can give them 2 tries as well with these words. All right. So do you feel clear about the placement test? Any questions about the placement test? It's the beginning of the term. Yes. This one you'll have to grade yourself. Yeah. Only the word. Yes, you can count how many they got right, or you can just record this is where they stop. So I'm going to group students. I'm sorry? Yes, I'll just show you that teacher form as well. So if you scroll down. All right, so here you can tell, you can record over here. Pre-test, so the pre-test means before you complete a level, before you start instruction, you'll do your pre-test for the same placement test. And you will record for every subtest, you know, how many parts did they get right. And what I will explain is, so for a word like glamorous, there are 3 parts to it, glamorous. So whatever parts they get right, that's 1 point for them. If they get gla right, but mo wrong, so that's 1 part wrong, 1 part right. Is that making sense? Because these are multi-syllable words. We are, but we're testing them at this point. We're just seeing whether they can read all these syllables because they may be familiar with some of them, but not the others, right? Okay, sure. So as you can see in this form, it's asking you not to record the number of words they got right, but the number of word parts they got right, right? Number of word parts. What do we mean by a part? We're basically talking about a syllable, right? So if we come up here, this is a 3rd level test. Smooth, how many syllables there? Just 1, right? Smooth has just 1 syllable there. Then you go into oyster, 2 syllables. And you don't even have to think for yourself how many parts there are. It's on the form, right? And the reason why it's like that is because your student might know ois. They might not know ter, or they might know ter, they wouldn't know ois. Well, what you care about is obviously whether they can read the whole word, but if they can read most of the word, that also counts. See what I'm saying? It's up to you. I know it's tricky. So maybe I'll try to find time to come back and we can practice this test together a little bit as well. I don't have time right now, but once we come back together, we can practice it too. Okay? And so the idea is that you record your responses in over here. It says here, parts refer to decodable chunks within the word and do not equate directly with syllables. So it's not even directly with syllables. For example, the word adjustable has 3 parts because the word able is taught as a single part or decodable chunk. Does that make sense? You do not have to think about syllable parts. You just have to recognize that the word can be split into parts. And how many parts of the word did my student get right? That's what we're going for, right? Okay, so the idea is once you're done, wherever they're getting more than half of them wrong, right? We're going to start from that level. right? And you can then create a group record over here. I think if you're running short of time, you don't need to do this. You can just determine which subtest they are struggling with and just put down their name on the group. If you have the time, you can go into recording individual. What do you think, Ms. Brittany? Do you agree? Yes. Just record as a group. Oh, this is no longer working. It just went red. I don't know how to fix this though. All right, I'm just gonna have to speak really loudly. I hope my Bayraq teachers can still hear me. Okay, great. I'm gonna come back to the presentation. Any questions? Okay, great. Bayraq teachers, please let me know if you want me to repeat something. I'm gonna go back to the presentation. Actually, I'm gonna just make this here so you can see us as we are presenting. And we're going to share. All right, I'm going to cruise forward now. All right, so in terms of your grouping, one thing to keep in mind is the best practice for this program is groups of 10 students. We recommend groups of 10 students. The reason why it's even better than one-on-one is so students can help each other. Sometimes they hear another student say something and it sticks with them more than just hearing the teacher say it. So this is the ideal scenario, but you can use it one-on-one. If you need to have a larger group, you can do that. It just depends. My recommended implementation is small groups. So some of your students are doing phonics or reading with you. The others are on iReady personalized instruction because they're getting the instruction and they're also doing a quiz there. But at the same time, you're doing teacher-led because you're one teacher and your whole class needs this, right? So if you're struggling with that, maybe that's one way to organize these sessions. That's going to be my recommendation. Yes. I know, I'm with you. I completely understand it. I completely understand it. But what I will say is with personalized instruction, let that be your teaching assistant because it keeps students busy. It keeps them busy and engaged in learning, while on the other hand, you are delivering the teacher-led intervention. You can also try doing it whole class. It's just hard to hear individual student responses if you do it whole class. That's the only tricky thing, but you can try to make this your starter activity as well. So every text, every lesson is split into chunks, and you can decide to do some chunks at the beginning of your regular lesson, right? And then go into your lesson and then continue in your intervention or small groups. So it's very flexible in how you want to use it. Okay. And once we go into the lesson, you'll see what it looks like. All right. It's teacher directed entirely. It's not automated. You should follow the script in your teacher guide. Each lesson takes about 45 to 60 minutes to complete. And the script walks you through what to say. What I recommend is I will definitely try to find time with you all to come and practice with you. If I cannot, or we do not have that time, in your groups, practice it with each other before you do it with your students. It will definitely take some practice to get it right. I had to practice a lot of times before I got the hang of it as well. Each lesson follows the same kind of structure and the same kind of split. Okay, this is the part I like to show you to motivate you. The more time you give to this, trying to move this, the more time you're able to give to phonics for reading, the faster you move through the levels. Ideally, once you finish the third level, your students should be able to start reading with some fluency, right? So, okay. So what we recommend is 25 to 30 minutes a day. Maybe in your first few weeks of grades 3 to 5, you're doing a lot of phonics for reading in your class, especially if the struggling students are getting this instruction, a lot of it. And that way, in 3 months, you can finish a level, and you will definitely, if you're following the routines, you will certainly see a difference in your students' reading levels. We've actually tried it at Bayraq, and it was definitely successful there. All right. Any questions about this so far, guys? I am cruising through, trying to cover a lot of content. I will show you where to find this information. Let's go ahead, take pictures if you need to. All right. It's frozen again somehow. 1 second. There are many different models to do it. Pull out, push in, small group, individual instruction, summer school, all of that. And again, I will share this with you. You don't need to take a picture of it. Okay, with that, what I'm gonna do is we have 15 minutes, so I'm actually gonna do a bit of a demonstration of the lessons with you all. So that's the handout that you have in your hands, okay? So I'm just gonna grab my sheet. What you have with you is the student version of this, and I have the teacher's version of it with me as well. I've intentionally not given you the teacher's version because I knew you'd get distracted with it. So the first few activities in the lesson are teacher-led. They're not in the student books. So when you're starting a phonics for reading lesson, the first few activities are you doing them. The student books are not, it doesn't start with a student book. Actually, the first one does. It's called New Sounds. So, all right, so I have a level 2 lesson with me, okay? And I'm gonna try to practice it with you right now, all right? So I'm gonna assume you're 5th graders. So 5th graders, the objectives of today's lesson are to introduce the A sound. And also we'll be introducing the ed sound at the end of words, okay? I'd love for you guys to participate with me as we go through this. 5th graders, look at the top of the page in front of you. Touch the first word. We want you to touch the first. Put your finger at the first word. The word is rain. Say the word. Say the word again. Good. The underlined sound is a. Say the sound. So it's actually a. The underlined sound is a. Say the sound. Touch the next word. The word is play. Say the word. Play. Say the word again. The underlined sound is a. Say the sound. Say the sound again. All right. At this point, you'll ask your teachers to close their students to close their student book because you have a sound drill activity. And now I cannot project it right now, but what will happen is these are all sounds they've encountered previously. So we're just revisiting them. It's not in your student book. And for this, you will go to your digital license. You have cards there that you can use to display it. Let me see if I can pull it up here, actually. Just a second. I think I have it in my folder, hopefully. But let me try to pull it up. Is it here? No, it's not here. What you see up here is a student page, which you have in front of you. I'm going to share the screen again for my Al Bayraq teachers. Okay. And I'm just gonna zoom in. All right, so this is the sound drill that you would have. So you would get a slide with the sound drill that you can just put up on a laptop or on the board or whatever it is you're using. And then the instruction is, let's practice saying the sounds and the words that we will be reading. Look at the letters in line 1. Say the sounds. So as students, you start saying the sounds. A, sh, a. Oh, thank you. It's working again? All right, great. So you'll start saying it. Oh, this makes such a difference. So you'll start saying it. A. And then like that, you will go and do all the sounds with your students. At this point, your students should know the sounds. They've come across them before. If they are struggling, you will repeat with them. Do you get it? So the sound drill is designed to get your students to practice sounds they already know. Okay? All right, so once we're done with the sound drill, the 5th line is the one with the new sounds. So you can see over here, you've got A repeated. You've also got some sounds, the newer sounds being repeated in here. You've introduced A today in class to your students already. So now they're practicing it multiple times. All right, so I'm gonna go to the next part of the routine. All right, it says in my book over here, it's a blending sounds oral teacher directed activity. Let's practice saying some words. I will say a word slowly. You tell me the words. I will say the word slowly as a teacher. You as a student tell me the word. Aid. Can someone tell me what the word is? Can you say it together? Made. All right. So now I'm going to repeat the process with a couple of different words. We're going to practice blending sounds together. All right. I'm going to say a word slowly. Play. What's the word? Play. What's the word? What's the word? What's the word? Do you get the pace of instruction here? With K to 2, you'd be going quite slowly. Maybe you'll bring in gestures. You'll get the students jumping up and down. In 3 to 5, it's like a drill. They just keep practicing until they get the hang of it. And it's very, very important that they're focusing on you in a small group and they're focusing on their books wherever it's directed. All right, so now your students will open their books to the page that you're looking at. Find part A in your book. Can you guys find part A? It's on the first page, right? It's the new words activity, the new words activity. Touch the first word in line 1. Look at the underlined letters. What is the sound? A. What is the sound? All right, and the word is fail. What is the word? Fail. So in this exercise, you're just getting your students to point at the underlined letters in those words and actually like be able to read that sound, because just today they've learned AI is A. All right? Okay, sound out the word to yourself. Put your thumb up when you say the whole word. Wait until all thumbs are up. What is the word? Fail. So how you start this new words routine is I'll look at the second word. Let's look at the second word together. Touch the first line, touch the second word. Look at the underlined letters. What is the sound? A. Now sound out the word to yourself. So we're not saying it out loud. The script says, sound out the word to yourself. Put your thumb up when you can say the word. Now I'm gonna wait until all of you put your thumbs up. All right. So let's say the word together. What is the word? Say. All right. Do you get a sense of that? All right. So you're gonna keep doing that until you do all the words in that activity. And I am just following the script. I have not memorized this. I'm just holding this and going ahead with it. All right. Repeat step. It says repeat these steps with all the words. And then you get to a sentence. So the sentence will be a challenge for most of your students. But however, give your students a chance to attempt it, and others will probably join in as they're doing that. All right. How do we feel about these two routines? We've tried new words. We've tried new sounds. We've tried the sound drill. We've tried the new words. How are we feeling about it right now? You get the sense of it? All right, great. So we're gonna also do review words. So it says over here, find part B in your book. Read the words in line 1 to yourself. When you can read all 3 words, put your thumb up. So I'm gonna wait for all my students to put their thumb up. I'm gonna be encouraging them to put their thumb up. Okay, I can see all the thumbs up. Get ready to read the words in line 1 together. Begin. Truck, tuck, tap, right? So you're getting the hang of it. Your students will ideally read together. If they're not able to do that, obviously you will say it for them and ask them to practice it. You'll probably point out the sound to them and say, the sound we're practicing is uck. Remember the sound uck we practiced earlier? All right, sounds try putting it together. Truck, truck, right? So on the spot, if your students are struggling, hopefully your students will not be struggling if they're seeing this, right? If they've placed into this part of phonics for reading, they should be comfortable with trying this out. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing with line 2. Read the words in line 2 to yourself. When you can read all 3 words, put your thumbs up. I'm going to wait until your thumbs are up. All right, get ready to read the words in line 2 together. Begin. Jeff, shelf, self, right? Ideally, your students should be picking it up at this point. They should be doing this. So you repeat this routine with all the sentences, all the lines over here until you're done. Next, one of our objectives was introducing word endings, ed, right? So you have that as your next routine. Have students open their books to lesson 1, page 4. So I think that's the next page. Find part C in your book. Let's practice reading some words with word endings. Look at the first word. Sound out the underlined word to yourself. Put your thumb up when you can say the underlined word. So wait until all the thumbs are up, and then I'll ask, what is the word? What is the underlined word? Fail. Students should know this. They just covered it in a previous exercise in the same routine. So you see how we're building upon it? They're encountering the same word, but now there's a word ending with it. So I'll continue the routine. So the routine tells me now, when the ed ending is added, the word is failed. What is the word? Failed. Now I will use the word in a sentence. Sam failed the math test. Say the word again. Failed, right? You're getting them to actually say the word multiple times. Now you're going to repeat the same steps with the other words. So let's try it now with another word. Look at the second word. Sound out the underlined word to yourself. This is part C of your student pages. All right? So sound out the underlined word to yourself. Put your thumb up when you can say the underlined word. I'm going to wait until all the thumbs are up in part C, word number 2. What is the word? Wait. What is the word? Wait. When, again, I'll point out, I have just added the ending ed to this word. You've seen this word before in the same routine. I've just added the word ending to it. And now what is the word? Waited. When I add the ending ed to it, the word becomes waited. What is the word? Waited, exactly. And then you can use these sample sentences. So I will now use this word in a sentence. Nat waited for Pat at school. Right, so I'll give them an example of how to place it in a sentence as well. Now, so every single lesson also includes a challenge. It includes a challenge. That's the next section. You've got challenge words. Oh, absolutely. All right. So actually, I think I'm going to stop here then, probably. I know we've thrown a lot at you. I feel horrible, but I'm just going to take some questions right now about phonics for reading so far. We covered the placement test. We covered grouping students. We covered what a lesson looks like and what the objectives are, what the script looks like. This is the script I'm following, just so you know. These are the corresponding teacher pages that I had printed in my hand. All right, and you can see how fast it went. This is how fast-paced your phonics reading lessons should be with your students. Once you guys get into routine and nobody's feeling conscious of what they're saying, that is the ideal. What we found with students is they enjoy this because they feel successful. They're like, I did something today. I got something today. And it's not as complex as lessons you're covering in class. All right, I'm just going to put it out there. Any more questions or anything of the sort? Yes, we have one in the back. Oh, so this has nothing to do with the diagnostic. Oh, okay, sure. So how do you put students on iReady, basically, that's the question. So that is a process the IT will handle, where you've given them a rostering template and we're just working on that template. You don't have to worry. You will just get your login, and actually you will get a password reset email probably saying reset your password. And then when you log in, just go to rosters, students, and just check if you have all the right classes and all the right students in your rosters, right? And please let Ms. Brittany, Ms. Mona, anyone know if you don't have the right students. We'll fix that on the back end ourselves. Thank you guys for your patience. I am so grateful that you waited and that you've persevered. And inshallah, I'll see you again soon, all right? I'm going to be here for a few minutes if anyone wants to chat. Thank you.
So yesterday and today, for all of us.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
But sometimes it is heavy. So
I admire you guys. Thank you so much. Don't worry, I will send it to you. My Bayraq teachers, I think most of you have left already, but thank you for persevering. I can't hear you very well. Just a second. All right, come again. For some reason, I can't hear them at all. I'm going to try muting from here and unmuting over here. Sorry, can we try one more time? Okay, now I can hear you.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. We understood.
I know this is a bit uncomfortable, but hopefully I'll try to visit your school as well and have some FaceTime with your teachers.
Great, thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'll end the call.